Marvel vs. Capcom 3.
How's it going, everyone? Heath here, back with episode 2 of the Ultimate Guide to UMVC3. Before we start, I'd like to give a shout out to IHeartJustice. He's one of the best Phoenix Wright players in the world. He hosts Marvel Monday weekly, where he plays with viewers, and he has a coaching service for those who really want to take their play to the next level. Links to his channels are in the description below. Today, we'll be going over one of the most fun aspects of Marvel 3, movement. We're going to start with the basics, and then combine the concepts we learned to form more advanced movement, the kind you'll see from high-level players. It's important to note that movement options in this game aren't completely universal, and your character may not be able to perform everything we talk about. Before each section, I'll provide a list of every character that's able to perform the technique we're discussing. Now, let's get started. I'm sure you already know about walking and jumping, but Marvel has an extra option known as a Superjump. By pressing down and then up immediately after, your character will jump high into the air, causing the screen to shift upwards. Of course, this can also be done forwards or backwards by inputting up forward or up back instead of up. Similar to games like Dragon Ball FighterZ, you're able to influence the direction of your Superjump by holding forward or backwards mid-jump. This change isn't too significant, but it's worth knowing if you need to really control your position. As we mentioned in the last episode, you aren't able to call an assist while you're super jumping. This does make super jumping a bit risky, but having the ability to escape pressure is usually worth it. Even though every character has a super jump, they're not all equally powerful. In general, your character's super jump becomes more effective if your character has more aerial options. For example, a Magneto doing a super jump is pretty scary, because he can throw projectiles, enter flight mode, change his direction, or even start a full combo. But if a Hulk does a super jump, it's not that bad. He has no air special moves, no flight mode, and no way to change direction, making him vulnerable. Magneto is meant to be more of an aerial fighter, while Hulk is a more grounded one. Try and figure out how strong your character's super jump is. If you watched the last episode, you'll remember that ground dashing can be performed by pressing 2 attack buttons, usually light and medium at the same time. But some characters can also perform a dash in the air. If your character is airborne, pressing any 2 attack buttons, except S, will cause your character to air dash forward. Air dashing may seem similar to ground dashing at first, but there are many key differences. For example, you cannot cancel this air dash into blocking or jumping. Either you cancel into an attack, or you're not canceling it at all. In addition, you typically only get 1 air dash at a time. Once used, you can't use it again until you touch the ground, get hit, or enter flight mode. Air dashing does not work the same for each character. Some characters have no air dash, some can only air dash forward and backwards, and others can air dash in all 8 directions. To go in a particular direction when air dashing, simply hold the direction you want to go before you press L and M. I recommend using a jump attack every time you air dash for 2 reasons. 1, there's a chance that your opponent will run into it and get hit, letting you start a combo. And 2, it cancels the end of your air dash, letting you return to the ground quicker than just waiting for the air dash to finish on its own. One general tip to start using them is to simply air dash forward and then hit 6H when near the end of your air dash. We actually talked about this trick back in episode 1 with Nova. If your opponent is far away from you when you hit 6H, you get an overhead. If they jump up in your way, then 6H will throw them instead. This option select is very effective and can be applied to a lot of characters. Try it out. If your character is able to, by inputting 214S, you'll enter flight mode. Flight mode is a temporary state that gives you unlimited air actions, such as special moves and air dashes. Flight mode has a large variety of uses, but the most common are for certain combo routes, and most relevant for today's video, it gives access to some more advanced movement options that we'll go into later. Though it can be awkward to use when first learning, here are a few general tips to help you get started. First, do a normal jump, and then air dash upwards. Finally, enter flight mode. You'll notice that you're at about super jump height without actually super jumping. Here's the thing, because you never actually super jumped, you're still able to call your assists. Remember, being at super jump height moves the camera upward. It moves it so high that your opponent won't be able to see any assists that you call until it's way too late. It's also good to note that there are two universal ways to get out of flight mode once you're in it. You can either repeat the flight command again, 214S, or just hit S by itself. Using S to cancel flight mode is very powerful, as it makes your flight movement more efficient, puts out an attack to defend yourself, and can even help in certain combo routes, especially with Magneto. As the name suggests, a double jump allows your character to jump forward, neutral, or backward again while you're in midair. It's the same input as a regular jump, just in the air. Although this is a weird concept at first, double jumps can be very powerful. Similar to an air dash, their main benefit is that they let you change your trajectory after committing to a jump. Not only that, but they can actually be better than air dashes in certain situations because you can block during them. One really good place to apply double jumps is when your character is incoming. Without movement, an incoming character can easily get mixed up. However, with a double jump, you can control your position and make the mix-up much easier to manage. It's worth mentioning that some characters, specifically Beautiful Joe, Chun-Li, and Dante while in Devil Trigger, have access to a triple jump. They're essentially the same thing as double jumps, they just give you even more control of your air mobility. Last episode, when I talked about ground dashing, I mentioned that you had a few options to cancel your dash, including crouching. This technique can be used to create very fast movement. After canceling your dash with a crouch, you can then stand up and dash again. Repeating this pattern of dash, and crouch is called Wavedashing. Isn't that cool? You're able to dash around super fast. Now, this will be your main way to move around instead of walking, so I highly recommend you practice this every time you go into training mode. To start, practice these inputs slowly. Light plus medium, down, light plus medium, down, and so on. Just alternate between the buttons and the direction, and you'll be wave dashing forward in no time. Backwards wave dashing is a little more difficult, but the principle is the same. Perform a backdash by inputting back plus L and M, then cancel your dash with down back rather than down. Chances are, you'll mess this up and accidentally get a super the first time you try wave dashing backwards. To avoid this, make sure that you're always holding back, and when you crouch, roll the motion to down back, never letting yourself go neutral. In my opinion, wave dashing is the most important movement technique you should learn as a newcomer. Strong movement is a very important part of being a strong player, and wave dashing is the first major step. Practice this one a lot. Characters with an 8-way air dash have an additional movement option known as tri-jumping. To tri-jump, simply jump up forward and then air dash down forward, moving along the ground with a triangular path. Of course, this can also be done backwards. Just do up back and then air dash down back. Unless you're playing Dr. Doom, you're not going to be tri-jumping all the time. Instead, you'll mainly use this technique to start 50-50 mix-ups when the opponent is stuck in block stun. Simply start a block string, call an assist to keep the opponent locked down, jump up, and then air dash down forward. If you hit the L button in the air, you'll get an overhead. Or, if they're blocking your overheads, just hit 2L instead. Either starter in the right circumstance can lead to a dead character. Just keep in mind that there's a minimum height requirement to air dash. You can't do it instantly when you leave the ground, you have to wait a split second. If you play a character with an 8-way air dash, don't skip out on learning this. This tactic is powerful at literally every level of play. If your character has a flight mode and an 8-way air dash, you gain access to a technique I call Airdash Chaining. Back when I talked about flight mode, I said that you get an unlimited number of air actions, including air dashes. Well, it turns out, you can actually cancel an air dash into another air dash as long as you're dashing in a different direction. This is a very powerful tool, and total mastery of this technique will make your neutral game very flexible. To start, just try practicing this. While in flight mode, do a forward dash with L and M, then up forward L and M again, up forward L and M again, and so on. This will carry you to the top of the screen in no time, allowing you to easily zone out your opponent. There are tons of combinations of dashes that you can use. Remember, you can cancel your flight mode by just pressing S, and with most characters, it's a good idea to hit S after your last dash because it lets you recover faster and puts a hitbox in front of you to protect yourself. Good movement is the most important tool in your offense and your defense, and mastering this technique will give you the best of both worlds. If you play a character with flight, this is mandatory. Priority Link Dashing, or Plink Dashing for short, is a movement technique that allows you to cancel your ground dashes into each other, similar to Wavedashing. However, instead of canceling your dashes into a crouch, you're actually canceling your dashes into an attack. See, if you hit H and then hit L plus M a few frames after, you'll actually cancel the startup of your H into a dash. Just like with Wavedashing, this can be repeated and it can be done forward or backwards. To go forward, just hold the stick forward, tap H, and then immediately tap L and M right after. To go backwards, it's the same thing, but just hold back instead of forward. But why do this when we can wave dash? Plink dashing, when executed properly, is much faster than regular wave dashing. In addition, because you're inputting H plus a direction, if an opponent tries to throw you while you're dashing, you'll actually tech the throw automatically, similar to how air dashing with forward and H works. Even though Plink Dashing is better than Wave Dashing in pretty much every way, there's one major flaw. If you mistime a Plink Dash, you'll get a heavy attack, leaving yourself extremely vulnerable. This is why I suggest learning Wave Dashing first. Though Plinks are more optimal, Wave Dashing is still extremely effective and less risky overall. I recommend using Iron Fist to learn Plink Dashing because his forward plus heavy attack, the Quick Kick, creates an aura around him when performed. If you see this aura when you're Plink Dashing forward with him, you know you're doing it right. Once you get comfortable, just go back to your main character and try it with them. It's more important to be consistent than to be fast. Don't forget that. As you've just seen, Plink Dashing is a very powerful tool. It turns out you can also get the benefits of Plink Dashing while you're in flight mode. Just like with ground plinks, by canceling H into L and M and repeating it, you can chain many air dashes together, moving quickly in the air. This technique is even more important in the air than on the ground because air plinks are the only way to continuously move in one direction while in flight mode. Remember, when we talked about Airdash chaining, we had to change direction with every dash. With air plinks, you can just keep going in one direction if you want. Just like with ground plinks, the advantage you get with air plinks are more speed and the ability to tech throws automatically. Again, even though this technique is more powerful than Airdash chaining, it's more difficult and carries more risk should you make a mistake. You're much more likely to mess up a plink than you are to mess up Airdash chaining, but the work you put into plinks will definitely be worth it. It's tough, but make sure you get around to mastering plinks once you feel comfortable. That's it! We've gone through every form of movement that UMVC3 has to offer. The freedom in movement of Marvel 3 makes it such a unique game. I want to thank you all for being so patient. I'm glad there's still tons of people who want to learn to play this amazing game. Next time, we'll be going over the basics of combo structure and how to approach developing combos in general. Have a good day, and I'll see you next time.